Alright, so welcome back to part 2 on this tutorial. I'm going to talk about lighting and setting up post-processing volumes on a camera. So this is going to get real intense. One of the things I've already done is I have already re-enabled real-time lighting along with mixed lighting. I changed out my skybox for a skybox procedural, which is located inside standard assets. And then for my sun source, I went ahead and used the directional light source that is already on here as default. Boy. So after I enabled real-time global illumination along with baked global illumination, I clicked on generate lighting. It took like 20 or 30 minutes, but it finished compiling everything. After that, I had selected my camera, and I went ahead and added the post-process volume script and the post-process layer script. Now, by default, you probably won't have this. So you have to go up to Window, Package Manager, and you're going to want to get the post-processing right here. So once you've gotten the post-processing and you have installed it, you'll add these two onto your camera game object. From there, you'll actually start with the layer first and then the volume. The layer, I set mine up as default just because I was having issues with it. Generally, you'd set it up as post-processing, but I want to do this with everything that is being rendered inside the volume. Also, make sure that you have HDR and MSAA, which is multi-sampling anti-aliasing, if I can say that. On both of these, I just set as use graphic settings. Also, make sure the depth is set to -1 on your camera. I've seen some weird things happen when it's not. So for the mode, we're just going to set it to subpixel anti-aliasing down here, and I'm going to set the quality high. I'm going to really piss off my computer. I don't know what's under Toolkit. Like I said, honestly, I have very little. I have actually very little experience with post-processing. So inside the volume, I went ahead and added all the effects, which if you just click on Add Effect and click on Unity, this is all the effects that it will give you. But I went ahead and added all of them. So I'm going to want ambient occlusion selected. And for I'm going to set this to 10. There we go. And I'm going to crank up the intensity. Let's see, maybe not that high. It's kind of extreme. Nah, I'm going to want more than that. There we go. Probably around there. And I'm going to actually back off on the color just a little bit. There we go. I'm going to uncheck ambient only. So, you can already see how much, like, yeah, we have this little bit of oddness, but I don't really care about that. Auto exposure. This is actually a really interesting one. And here we go. So we're going to crank this. Whoa, not too much, Jimmy. Crank that up. Crank this up just a little bit. Let's see, right about there. Okie dokie. Bloom is another really interesting one. Intensity 1. Come on. There we go. Yeah, I don't know if you can see the difference or not, but I can on mine, and it just looks incredible. It definitely made a fairly large difference from what I was expecting it to do. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and look over this way a little bit more there. Okay, so now this way we can actually view it all live as it's playing. I'm not really worried about chromatic variation. You can turn that on if you want, but since we don't really have anything that's chromy, I guess you would say, we don't need that. You're not really going to see too much of anything in here. It can give it a nice little effect, but that's completely up to you. Depth of field is a really good one. This actually gives everything a more realistic look. So the focus distance, I'm going to crank this up. I'm going to crank it down. Let's see, right about there. So this way, if there's anything that's too far out, you'll start to see it blurring out. So if we look at right here, you can see how everything behind it's blurred out. But if we look down here, everything should kind of focus back into, yeah, so see the grass is actually focusing back into, oh yeah, my computer's pissed at me. So now it looks like it's focusing on that tree branch. And it's just a little effect you can add. It can really bring out, like, I'm trying to think how to explain it. It can really amp up your game. You just don't want to use it too much. You definitely want it on the far away objects. So something kind of like that would be good to have. I haven't really used grain too much, I'm not going to lie. So let's go ahead and turn on the intensity. I don't know if we really want colored or not. Let's crank it up a little bit. Probably about right there, I think. Lens distortion is kind of a weird one. It actually distorts the lens that the camera is looking through. So I don't know if you'd want that or not. Motion blur is a good one to have. Sure. It's probably a little too much, but it's definitely really good to have. But so yeah, this is post-processing. So I'm hoping this little tutorial, I know this part isn't too terribly long. This is mainly just dealing with the lighting. And also, as I said before, whenever you do this, make sure that inside of your editor, you change it from, no, it's not editor, is it quality? No, it's not quality, it's got to be player. Yeah, player. So inside other settings, make sure this is set to linear. That's actually kind of a requirement for post-processing. But, yeah, the biggest part is mainly just setting up the terrain and everything. And you can see it's actually fairly render intensive because I have the layers set to everything. But you can just look out in the distance and you can see how good that looks. If I were to go in here and start adding a lot of like sun rays and things like that coming through here, I'd have to do a little bit of research. But I mean, the scene would just look epic if I did that. Already, I think it looks pretty good for the little bit of work I did do to it. Granted, I'm running at 6 frames a second, but a lot of that's just because of the grass and everything that I threw in there. So it made it look really good, but at the same time, I'm having to use an insane amount of GPU. So like whenever I get to the top of this mountain right here, you're going to see that's going to start running really smooth again. In fact, I'm already noticing a huge increase in performance. But then whenever I look back over here, performance goes back down to crap. But yeah, I think that's pretty much going to do it. There's actually a lot of things you can do to really amp up. Like I said, one of the things is adding light rays that come through the trees. You can really just create super fantastic realism doing that. Also, something like volumetric clouds, or you can just get a skybox that has that. I'm sure the asset stores have them. If you just come in here to asset store and just type in like skybox, I don't know what that is. If you're wondering, I was seeing if there's any other features for Skybox. So yeah, here's one that's Skybox. There's another one. So you have all types of Skyboxes. If you were to import one of these, this right here would just look fantastic. Like, yeah, look how good this looks. So if we were to import this, if I were to download this and import it, I think you'd really be blown away. And to change a Skybox, literally all you do is just come in here and you just replace it with Skybox Procedural. That's how you do it. It's really easy, and you can kind of see the grainy look here in this too. It's actually really cool looking. You can just see how good everything looks. I'm actually really impressed by it, to be honest with you. But anyways, that's going to do it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, you can either send me a question directly. You could comment your question down below, obviously, but also you could always just submit your question on my server, my mentoring server, or you can just message me directly. Until next time, see y'all later.